The ice that remembers. There are places in the world where silence feels older than time. Far in the North Atlantic, beneath waters black as ancient ink, beneath pressure that folds steel like paper, the cold holds memory. The sea remembers every ship it has swallowed. The ice remembers every age of the world. And the wind, restless and eternal, remembers every warning ever whispered to those who dared to cross its dominion, long before the Titanic ever set sail. Long before men declared themselves masters over iron, speed, and destiny. There were sailors who spoke of the ice guardians, vast, drifting sentinels born from glaciers older than civilization itself, to ancient Norsemen. Icebergs were not simply frozen mountains, they were Jotnar of the sea, the last children of Ymir, carrying with them the will of the old world, cold, impartial, and unmoved by human ambition. Inuit shamans saw them as spirits of the deep, migrating south to warn those who forgot the laws of nature. Celtic seafarers believed them to be omens of imbalance, markers of a world where humankind walked too arrogantly into the realm of the gods. These myths would seem forgotten in the industrial age, yet on the night of April 14, 1912, the old world answered the new, and for a moment, the Atlantic spoke once more in the tongue of legends, the ship built against destiny, when the Titanic was born. She was not christened with ceremony, no bottle of wine shattered against her hull, no blessing was said, not even the ancient ritual of naming, something sailors had honored for thousands of years, was properly observed. To the old mariners of Britain and Ireland, this was an ill omen. To the myth-keepers of the North, it was an affront to the spirits of the sea, but to the men of 1912, engineers, magnates, visionaries of the new century, such ancient notions were dismissed as superstition. Humanity had entered an age where steel replaced stories, and machinery replaced myth. Titanic was the pinnacle of this belief, 882 feet of iron confidence, 46,000 tons of modern supremacy. A floating palace combining Greek grandeur with Edwardian luxury, powered by engines that roared like newborn gods. Newspapers declared her unsinkable, the word repeated again and again until it became a prophecy spoken with arrogance, and deep in the North Atlantic, the sea listened. It had heard such claims before, from civilizations long turned to dust, the migration of the ancient ice, that same winter. An unusually large portion of the Greenland ice shelf splintered from its parent glacier. A colossus was born, a dark, crystalline mountain carved from snows older than civilization. Scientists would later say this iceberg began its journey thousands of years before the Titanic was even imagined. But the Inuit storytellers said something else: great ice moves when the world has been challenged. And indeed, the iceberg glided south with unnerving purpose, past Labrador, past Newfoundland, slow, silent, unstoppable, a messenger from the ancient world, moving toward a place where destiny waited. The departure. A city leaves the shore. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic pulled away from Southampton. Thousands gathered to watch a ship so massive it seemed to defy the horizon. People cheered. Bands played. Children clapped as the ship's horns bellowed across the harbor, but old sailors standing along the pier remained somber. One elderly fisherman crossed himself and whispered, "The sea takes what is hers." No one heard him. Among the passengers aboard, destiny pulled many threads together: millionaire magnates chasing a new century of wealth, emigrant families seeking hope in a foreign land, engineers proud of their creation, and a wireless operator who tapped messages faster than any man alive. But none of them knew they were walking into a story older than steel, a story of hubris, warning, and the deep sigh of the ocean. Ocean traditions long forgotten, for thousands of years. Sailors respected the ancient laws of the sea. These unwritten rules were simple: never boast of mastery over the ocean, never ignore a warning. No matter how small, never anger the spirits guarding the deep. But in the age of progress, these laws were cast aside. Titanic steamed ahead at maximum speed, not because she needed to, but because she could. Wireless warnings flooded in from other ships: ice ahead. Great bergs drifting. Field ice. Stop engines. Yet by the demands of luxury and punctuality, Titanic pressed forward. The sea had spoken many warnings that day, but humanity had forgotten how to listen. A night of omens, April 14th, a night sailors would later describe as unnaturally calm. The ocean stretched flat as polished obsidian. No waves breaking. No wind whispering. No movement but the ship herself. To old sea lore, such stillness was a sign. The Norse called it dead water, the calm before the judgment of Ran, goddess of the drowned. The Celts called it the hush, when the sea holds its breath. The Inuit called it the sleeping giant, when the ice spirits gather strength. But on the Titanic, only a few took notice. A young lookout, Frederick Fleet, felt something wrong deep in his bones. He later said, it was too calm. Too clear. Too quiet. Like the sea was watching. And perhaps it was. The iceberg rises from the dark. At 11:40 p.m., the iceberg finally revealed itself, an enormous, ghost-like shape rising out of the dark horizon. Fleet rang the bell. Ding. 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 Iceberg, right ahead. The helmsman spun the wheel, engines reversed, the ship groaned under strain, but the iceberg, cold, ancient, indifferent, came closer with the slow certainty of myth. When steel met ice, the sound was not explosive, it was a low, rumbling hiss, like fate carving its signature into metal. A 300-foot gash beneath the waterline, 6 compartments breached, water flooding in with the weight of a world older than humanity. Titanic was struck not by a mountain of ice, she was struck by time itself. The SEA claims its due. As the ship began to tilt, ancient symbolism unfolded. The grand staircase, the pride of the industrial age, tilted downward like a descent into the underworld. The boilers, roaring just moments before, drowned under freezing torrents, silencing the ship's iron heart. Men who built their lives on logic and machinery now faced a reality beyond equations. The ocean does not negotiate. The wireless operator, Harold Bride, sent out the distress call, CQD. CQD. Come quick danger. Then, for the first time in history, he used the new code, SOS. A cry through the darkness, a plea to the void. The sea listened, but its answer was in the rising tide, the Atlantic night of souls. As lifeboats lowered into the freezing black, a transformation unfolded. Those who had boarded the Titanic as strangers now clung to one another as family. In that moment, the labels of society, first class, third class, wealth, poverty, dissolved in the face of a force that recognized no hierarchy. A violinist played ancient hymns, echoing across the water. Mothers kissed their daughters one last time. Fathers lied to their sons, saying, "It's just a precaution." And the sea, patient and eternal, began to take them. Some looked up at the stars and saw the eyes of old gods. Some whispered prayers from forgotten religions. Some stared into the horizon, numb, waiting for judgment. For a brief moment, humanity remembered the ancient laws, and for the first time in centuries, the modern world felt small. The final breath of the Titanic. At 2:18 a.m., the Titanic's lights flickered, not violently, but softly, like a candle saying its last goodbye. Then came the great roar. The ship broke, the bow plunged into the abyss, the stern lifted like a sacrificial offering. Survivors said the sound was not metallic. It was like a giant exhaling, as if the world itself was releasing a breath held for too long. Then, silence, silence deeper than the ocean itself, the sea of shadows. For those in the water, time lost meaning. The cold did not sting, it numbed, paralyzed, crystallized. Some spoke of visions, glowing shapes beneath the waves, whispers carried in the water, shadows passing like memories of ancient mariners. And a feeling, overwhelming and absolute, that the ocean was not empty. Myth speaks of the drowned hall, a spiritual realm where souls lost at sea gather. Some survivors later described sensations eerily similar. The line between folklore and reality blurred on that night. The Carpathia, answering the call of destiny. When the Carpathia arrived, its crew felt the air thicken with a heaviness they could not describe. The captain later wrote, "The sea felt awakened." One survivor, trembling, whispered, "It felt like the ocean itself decided." Those rescued carried with them not just trauma, but a profound revelation: the world was not ruled by human will alone. When myth returns to memory, investigators later debated speed, metal fatigue, rivet quality, navigational failures, but none of those answers satisfied the deeper question: why did it happen? Ancient storytellers would have said, because humanity challenged the ocean, because we forgot humility, because we declared ourselves untouchable, because the natural world does not bow to ambition. In mythic terms, Titanic's fall was not merely a tragedy, it was a restoration of balance, the legacy of the ancient ice. When scientists located the wreck in 1985, they found something extraordinary: the iceberg's path, traced backwards through oceanographic models, showed a migration of thousands of years. Meaning, the iceberg that struck Titanic began its journey before the Egyptian pyramids were built. The collision was not random, it was the meeting of two ages, the ancient world of ice, and the modern world of steel, a convergence written by time itself. The message of the deep: what remains of Titanic now lies in quiet darkness, a monument not to human failure, but to a timeless truth: technology evolves. Civilizations rise, empires fall, but the laws of nature do not.